Today on Rappler, two lawyers asked the Supreme Court to stop the Senate from implementing the Corona trial verdict. Vice President Binay says it will be a landmine if Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio is appointed Chief Justice. And two warring families in Basilan, the Hatamans and Akbars, sign a peace covenant. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Lawyers Homabono Adaza and Alan Pagya asked the Supreme Court to stop the Senate from implementing its verdict in the impeachment trial of Renato Corona. In their petition Tuesday, the two say the Senate and the House of Representatives committed grave abuse of discretion by proceeding with the trial despite questions about the validity of the impeachment complaint. In their previous petition before the court filed in January, Adaza and Pagya say the 188 congressmen who signed the impeachment complaint did not check the allegations. They claim it was not a verified complaint and could not be acted upon by the Senate. The Supreme Court has yet to rule on this petition on top of 5 others, one of which was filed by Corona himself. Adaza and Pagya also argue the Senate should not have continued the trial without a ruling from the High Court on the pending petitions. The two say Senators Juan Ponce Enrile, Edgardo Angara, and Jinggoy Estrada should have been inhibited from the trial because their relatives, Representatives Jackie Enrile, Sonny Angara, and J.V. Ejercito, signed the impeachment complaint. Congressman Sonny Angara says these efforts are futile.
Final and executory na po yung decision ng Senate Impeachment Court. Final na po yun at wala na pong magagawa ang kahit anong korte na ibaliktad o ipawalang visa po yung decision na yun.
For the first time, Vice President Jejomar Binay hints he is against the appointment of Supreme Court Associate Justice Antonio Carpio as the next Chief Justice. In an interview upon his arrival from the U.S. on Tuesday, Binay responds to a question. Is Carpio on his list to replace former Chief Justice Renato Corona? Binay answers, quote, "That's a landmine." The Vice President adds he prefers that Corona's replacement come from the academe. Carpio is seen as an ally of the Vice President's bitter rival, Transportation Secretary Mar Rojas. Former Defense Secretary Avelino Cruz Jr., Carpio's former law partner, was Rojas's election lawyer. Binay adds he has 2 criteria for the next Chief Justice: administrative capability and judicial maturity. Anti-Money Laundering Council Executive Director Vicente Aquino says the impeachment trial taught the council, quote, "a lot of good lessons." He says there should be additional amendments to the Anti-Money Laundering Act, while the foreign currency law should also be amended to include exemptions. Various House bills are now being filed in Congress to authorize the impeachment court, regular courts, and the ombudsman to examine foreign currency deposits during exceptional circumstances. Aquino attended Tuesday's hearing of the House Committee on Banks on bills seeking to review the Foreign Currency Deposit Act.
A lot of good lessons, of course. Well, I don't have to be specific, but it's a learning curve also. I think for all government agencies concerned. Well, what I can say is there should be additional amendments to the AMLA to make it stronger. The foreign currency deposit law should also be amended to increase the number of exceptions. And that these proposed amendments to the foreign currency deposit law shall not modify, amend, or repeal the provisions of the AMLA.
Banco de Oro announces the final price of its planned stock rights offer. It is seen as the biggest share sale in the country. BDO, the Philippines' top lender by assets, tells public investors it will sell 895 million common shares in a rights offer to investors at 48.60 pesos apiece to raise $1.88 billion. This is the biggest ever equity deal in the Philippines. The offer period will run from June 18th to 27. Well, two families locked in a violent dispute sign a peace covenant Tuesday, ending nearly a decade of political rivalry. Basilan Governor Jum Akbar and ARMM Acting Regional Governor Mujib Hataman lead the signing of a covenant for peace in Isabela, Basilan. Before the peace pact, the Akbars accused the Hatamans, Mujib and his congressman brother Jim, of plotting the 2007 murder of then Basilan Representative Wahab Akbar, the husband of the incumbent governor. The Akbars dropped the murder charges filed against the Hatamans to show their goodwill. Tuesday's reconciliation paves the way for a political realignment in Basilan. Senator Antonio Trillanes IV questions DepEd's newly launched K-12 program. He grills Education Undersecretary for Programs and Projects Yolanda Quijana in a hearing of the Senate Education Committee. Trillanes tells Quijano, quote, "We are beneficiaries of the 10-year program. You're saying we're intellectually inferior?" Quijano defends the move, saying 10 years are not enough to make the students globally competitive. She adds the DepEd wants to decongest the curriculum. Trillanes remains unconvinced and says the solution to prolong a dysfunctional 10-year program is not valid. Rappler's Carlos Cinco put together a list of the best pound for pound in the country. He says it's a totally subjective list, but heck, it's fun. Here's 3 of Rappler's top 10. At number 6 is Denver the Excitement Cuello. He has 4 losses and 6 draws to his name, but don't let that fool you. That was when he was fighting to pay the bills. Cuello has since renewed his focus and is coming of age as a fighter with 21 knockouts in 31 victories. At number 2 is Nonito the Filipino Flash Donaire. With boxing champ Manny Pacquiao considering retirement, Donaire is poised as the next Filipino boxing icon. Cinco says Donaire is ambidextrous with a methodical fighting style. Rappler sports analyst says he hopes Donaire will extend his 27-win streak against Jeffrey Matebula on July 7, 2012. And an obvious choice for number 1 is Manny Pacquiao, the first and only 8-division world boxing champion. The People's Champ will face Timothy Bradley on June 9, 2012, that's June 10th in the Philippines, in a fight that Coach Freddie Roach expects Pacquiao to command and win quickly. Read the full top 10 on Rappler.com. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 4, Syrian rebels say a UN-backed truce fails after a Friday deadline for a ceasefire passed. A Syrian opposition watchdog acknowledges the attacks over the weekend and says at least 80 Syrian troops were killed. International mediator Kofi Annan is expected to address the UN on Thursday and to meet with the U.S. Secretary of State on Friday. At number 7, Google expands from search to social. Social media developer Meebo announces on its blog it has agreed to be purchased by Google. No amount was named, but an earlier report mentions $100 million. This purchase allows internet giant Google to consolidate the instant sharing of web pages using social networks. At number 8, the Vatican formally censures award-winning scholar Sister Margaret A. Farley for her book, which presents a theological rationale for same-sex relationships, masturbation, and remarriage after divorce. Sister Farley says her book offers, quote, contemporary interpretations and moves away from, quote, taboo morality. And at number 9, a new study shows going to sleep with your partner may help you live healthier and longer. The study shows the feeling of safety and security may help bring down levels of a stress hormone. It also elevates levels of oxytocin or the love hormone. All in all, researchers say the psychological benefits may outweigh the disturbance of having another person in your bed. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. The Ascals tie with Indonesia in the second game of a series of 3 exhibition games. The games are sanctioned by FIFA, which mean the results will affect the team's world rankings. Indonesia scores the first goal, but the Ascals' James Younghusband responds quickly with a goal of his own. Angel Guirado almost scored another goal for the Philippines, but Indonesia's keeper deflects the shot. The Indonesians quickly score another goal to take the lead at 2-1. After a small scuffle, Phil Younghusband scores a goal to tie the game 2-2. The game ends in a draw. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Tuesday, June 5, 2012. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.